The moment Sarah Chen stepped into Marcello's, the scent of garlic and rosemary should have comforted her. Instead, her breath caught in her throat. There, across the dimly lit restaurant, sat the man who had once promised her forever, and then walked away when forever became too difficult. Michael looked older. The lines around his eyes had deepened, and his shoulders carried a weariness that hadn't been there 7 years ago. He sat alone at a corner table, studying the menu with an intensity that suggested he was reading it. For the first time, though she knew he used to come here every Friday night when they were married. "Mommy, you're squeezing too hard," whispered Emma, tugging at Sarah's hand. Sarah loosened her grip and looked down at her 7-year-old twins. Emma's dark eyes were concerned, while her brother Ethan was already scanning the restaurant with the fearless curiosity that defined him. "Sorry, sweetheart," Sarah murmured, smoothing Emma's hair. She forced her feet to move forward, following the hostess to their table. The universe had a twisted sense of humor, seating them just 3 tables away from Michael. The twins hadn't noticed him yet. They were too busy debating whether to order spaghetti or pizza, their voices bright with excitement. This dinner was meant to celebrate. Sarah's tech startup had just been acquired for $42 million. After years of 18-hour days, maxed-out credit cards, and countless rejections from investors who couldn't see past her gender or her status as a single mother, she had finally made it. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, watching Michael from the corner of her eye, she felt the old wound throb with unexpected freshness. He had left when the twins were 6 months old, not because he didn't love them, he'd said, because he couldn't handle it, the sleepless nights, the financial pressure, the constant crying. He'd been trying to launch his own business then, a restaurant concept that never materialized. He'd felt suffocated, he'd told her during their last terrible conversation. He needed space to breathe, to find himself, to become the man he was meant to be. Sarah had been too exhausted, too heartbroken, and too angry to fight. She'd let him go, watching him walk out of their cramped apartment with a single suitcase, leaving her with 2 infants, a mountain of debt, and a future that looked impossibly dark. "Mommy, are you okay?" Emma's small hand touched her arm. Sarah blinked away the memories and smiled. "I'm perfect, baby. This is our special night, remember?" Ethan bounced in his seat. "Because you're rich now." "Ethan," Sarah said gently, though she couldn't help but laugh. "We talked about this. The money means we're secure. It means I can spend more time with you both. That's what matters." "And we can get a dog?" Ethan asked hopefully. "We'll see," Sarah said, the universal parent response that meant probably yes. As they ordered spaghetti for Emma, pizza for Ethan, and chicken piccata for Sarah, she couldn't stop herself from glancing at Michael. He hadn't ordered yet. He was just sitting there, the menu now closed in front of him, staring at his water glass with an expression of profound sadness. The waiter approached his table, and Sarah watched Michael shake his head, pointing to something on the menu. The waiter's expression shifted to apologetic, and Michael nodded, pointing to something else. This happened twice more before Michael simply ordered water and bread. Understanding dawned on Sarah like cold water. He was looking at prices, choosing the cheapest items, maybe even too broke to afford a proper meal. Her first instinct was a sharp satisfaction. Karma, she thought. He'd left her in impossible circumstances, and now he was struggling. The universe had balanced the scales. But as she watched him thank the waiter with a dignity that broke her heart, the satisfaction curdled into something else. This was Michael, the man who had taught her to dance in their kitchen at midnight, who had held her hand during the ultrasound when they'd discovered they were having twins, tears streaming down his face, who had been weak when she'd needed him to be strong, yes, but who had also been human, flawed and scared. "Mommy, that man looks sad," Emma said, following her gaze. Sarah's heart squeezed. Emma had always been sensitive to others' emotions, even as a toddler. "Sometimes people have hard days, sweetheart," Sarah said softly. "Like when you cried after the bank said no?" Emma asked, referencing a moment from 2 years ago that Sarah had thought her daughter was too young to remember. "Yes, like that." Ethan had noticed Michael too now. We should share our pizza with him, he announced with the uncomplicated generosity of childhood. Ethan, we can't just... Sarah began, but Emma was nodding enthusiastically. You always say sharing is caring, Emma reminded her. Sarah looked at her children, these beautiful, kind-hearted souls she'd raised alone through impossible circumstances. They didn't know this sad stranger was their father. Michael had never tried to contact them after he'd left, had signed away his parental rights without a fight when Sarah's lawyer had drawn up the papers. To them, he was just another person in pain, and they wanted to help him. Something shifted in Sarah's chest. She thought about all the time she'd been helped by strangers. The older woman at the grocery store, who'd paid for her groceries when her card was declined. The neighbor who'd babysat for free, so Sarah could make an important pitch meeting. The investor who'd taken a chance on her when everyone else saw only risk. She thought about the anger she'd carried for 7 years, how she'd nursed it like a flame, using it to fuel her late nights and her determination to prove she didn't need anyone. That anger had served its purpose. It had made her strong, but her children were teaching her something else now. They were showing her what it meant to see someone's pain without needing to know their story. To respond with kindness simply because someone needed it. Sarah flagged down their waiter, a young man named Marco, who'd been especially patient with the twins. Marco, she said quietly, see that gentleman over there? The one sitting alone? Marco nodded. I'd like to pay for his meal, Sarah said. Whatever he orders, and please bring him this. She pulled out her business card and wrote quickly on the back. You deserve a good meal. No strings. Just kindness from a stranger. Take care of yourself. Marco smiled warmly. That's very generous. Wait, Sarah added, thinking quickly. The twins wanted to share. Can you bring him a pizza too? Tell him it's from 2 kids who thought he looked hungry. Emma and Ethan beamed at this, proud to be part of the gesture. 10 minutes later, Sarah watched as Marco approached Michael's table with a full spread, pasta, salad, and a large pizza. She saw Michael's confusion, his protest, and then Marco pointing discreetly toward their table. Michael's head turned slowly. His eyes widened when he saw her. For a long moment, they just looked at each other across the restaurant. Sarah saw recognition dawn on his face, followed by a complex cascade of emotions. Shock, shame, gratitude, pain. His gaze dropped to the twins, who were watching him with open curiosity, and something broke in his expression. He stood up, walking toward their table with hesitant steps. Sarah's heart hammered. She hadn't thought this through. What would she say? What would she do? Sarah, he said when he reached them, his voice rough. I don't know what to say. Up close, she could see he'd lost weight. His clothes, once impeccably chosen, were clean but worn. There was a weariness in him that went bone deep. You don't have to say anything, Sarah said quietly. Everyone needs help sometimes. Michael's eyes filled with tears. He looked at the twins, his twins, though they didn't know it, and his jaw worked silently. Are you the sad man? Emma asked with childlike directness. Michael let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Yes, sweetheart. I guess I am. Don't be sad, Ethan said firmly. Pizza makes everything better. That's what Mom says. A tear tracked down Michael's cheek. Your mom is very smart. Sarah saw him struggling, saw him wanting to say more, to explain, to apologize, to somehow bridge the impossible gap between them. But he simply said, thank you. This kindness. I don't deserve it. No one deserves kindness, Sarah found herself saying, surprising herself with the words. We just choose to give it anyway. That's what makes us human. Michael nodded, unable to speak. He looked at Sarah with an expression of profound regret and gratitude. You're remarkable, he whispered. You always were. I'm sorry I couldn't see it when it mattered. Sarah felt the old anger stirring, but also something new, a sense of release. We do the best we can with what we have in each moment, she said. Sometimes our best isn't good enough. Sometimes we fail the people who need us most. But that doesn't mean we're beyond redemption. She wasn't sure if she was talking about him, or herself, her own failures as a mother on the hard days, her own moments of wanting to give up. "Go eat," she said gently, "before it gets cold." Michael returned to his table, and Sarah watched him eat with the desperate gratitude of someone who hadn't had a proper meal in too long. When he finished, he approached their table once more. "I'm working again," he said quietly to Sarah, while the twins were distracted by their desserts. "Nothing glamorous. I'm washing dishes at a diner downtown. But I'm sober now. 2 years clean. I'm trying to become someone I can be proud of." Sarah felt something crack open inside her. She'd never known about the drinking, though it made a terrible sense in retrospect. "I'm glad," she said, and meant it. "Keep going, one day at a time." Michael pulled out a worn wallet and extracted a small photo, creased and faded. It was from their wedding day, the two of them laughing in the rain because of course it had rained. "I kept this," he said, "to remind me what I lost, what I threw away." He looked at the twins with naked longing. "They're beautiful. You've done an amazing job." Sarah felt her throat tighten. "They're good kids, kind kids, like their mother," Michael said. He straightened his shoulders, seemed to gather his courage. "I don't expect anything. I don't deserve anything. But when I'm in a better place, if I get to a better place, would you ever consider letting me meet them? Properly, I mean, as their father." The question hung between them, enormous and complicated. Sarah thought about all the reasons to say no, the years of absence, the pain, the disruption it would cause. But she also thought about Ethan's eager generosity, about Emma's compassionate heart, about the lesson they'd just taught her about kindness without conditions. "Get yourself stable," she said finally. "Get yourself healthy. Prove you can show up consistently for 6 months. And then we'll talk. No promises beyond that." Hope flashed across Michael's face, followed immediately by determination. "I will. I swear to you, Sarah, I will." He left then, but not before stopping to say goodbye to the twins. "Thank you for the pizza," he told them. "You just reminded me that good people still exist in this world." After he was gone, Emma looked up at Sarah with those wise, dark eyes. "Mommy, why did that make you cry?" Sarah wiped her cheeks, not even realizing tears had fallen. "Because sometimes kindness is hard, baby. Sometimes the people who need it most are the people who've hurt us. And choosing to help them anyway, that's one of the hardest, bravest things we can do." "Did he hurt you?" Ethan asked with sudden fierceness. "A long time ago," Sarah admitted. "But people can change, people can heal, and holding on to anger just makes us sick inside." She was still figuring this out herself, still processing what had happened tonight. But looking at her twins, at the compassionate, generous humans they were becoming, she felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. The money in her bank account mattered less than this moment. Success wasn't measured in millions, but in the capacity to see someone else's humanity, even when it was uncomfortable. Especially when it was uncomfortable. As they left the restaurant that night, walking past the table where Michael had sat, Sarah noticed he'd left something behind, a note on a napkin, written in his familiar handwriting. "Thank you for showing me grace when I deserved judgment. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn this second chance." Sarah folded the napkin carefully and put it in her purse. She didn't know what the future held, whether Michael would keep his word, whether the twins would someday know their father, whether forgiveness was even possible after everything. But she knew this. Tonight, she and her children had chosen kindness over bitterness. They'd fed someone hungry, body and soul. They'd reminded a broken man that he was still worth saving. And somehow, in that simple act of humanity, Sarah felt lighter than she had in years. The anger she'd carried, her companion, her fuel, her burden, had finally begun to release its grip. The twins held her hands as they walked to the car, chattering about pizza and kindness and the sad man who smiled when he left. Sarah looked up at the stars beginning to emerge in the evening sky and felt gratitude wash over her. She had built an empire. She had raised 2 incredible children. She had survived impossible odds. But tonight, she'd done something harder. She'd chosen compassion over revenge, grace over grievance, hope over hurt. And that, Sarah realized, was the truest measure of wealth she'd ever known.